Hopefully you had some success putting together the setRetired function. If you ran into any issues, don't sweat it. Again, I really threw you into the deep end on this one. In particular, if you got the query kind of working, but it felt like it was only returning or only updating one artist at a time, no problem. We're going to fix that problem up inside this section. So we're going to start off inside of the setRetired file. So I'm inside of setRetired right now. We definitely want to update a couple of different artists all in one go. We've seen an example of this back in our users application, and so without a lot of explanation ahead of time, let's put together what the query is probably going to be. It's probably going to be something like artist.update. I'm going to expect to have a couple arguments here, so I'm going to new line the function. The first argument to artist.update is the criteria with which we want to find the list of artists to update, and then the second argument is the way in which we want to update that artist. So first, we're going to say, look at the ID of every artist. If their ID is in this list of IDs that we're going to pass in as an argument, so IDs, this is coming from the argument right here, then we want to update them in some fashion. So we're going to put a comma at the end, and for the second argument, we'll say retired true. So I'm specifically saying true because we're inside the setRetired function. So presumably, if we're calling this thing, we want to set some of these people as being retired. Okay, so looking at this, it definitely matches up to some of the code we had previously written around our list of users. Let's test this out and see how we're doing. I'm going to flip over to our app, wait for the very long refresh to occur. Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to multi-select two of the artists with white backgrounds. Remember, if they have a white background, that means that they are currently not retired. So if I click the retire button right now, I'm going to expect both of their backgrounds to suddenly turn gray. All right, so here we go. So I'm going to click it, and that's quite interesting. Only the first record was actually updated. It appears that Dawn wasn't updated at all. If I click submit to update the list right here, when I click on it, it is updating the list, but clearly nothing is actually happening. Like, let's confirm. I can sort by age. Okay, yep, there's age. If we go back to name with Dawn, yep, Dawn, sure enough, she is not getting updated to being retired. So what's going on? Well, let's check out some of the documentation and see one of the biggest gotchas around Mongoose and Mongo that you could ever possibly imagine. So I'm at mongoosejs.com, where we've been looking at a lot of the official documentation around Mongoose. I'm going to click on read the docs, and this takes us into some of the documentation. Now I know that the text is a little bit small, but don't worry, I'll read it out to you. I'm going to scroll down on the left-hand side and go to the API docs section again. So like I said earlier, yeah, I really don't care for these docs that much. Let's find our model.update function and see if we can't figure out exactly what's happening here. So I'm going to search for model.update, and then I'm just going to go ahead and there we go. Thank goodness, we found it without too much difficulty. All right, so if we look at the description, okay, updates documents in the database without removing them. Yep, sounds good. The first argument is the conditions, or kind of like the search criteria. The second argument is the document, or how we want to update the records we find. And then the third option, the third argument is options. Let's look at the list of options we have available. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. So here's valid options. If you look at these options, you're going to find one little option just buried away in this list, and oh my goodness, can you believe that it's so hidden? If we pass in a object that contains the key multi with a value of true, that is how we actually get a multiple documents updated at once. By default, multi is passed in as false, which means multiple documents will not be updated by a single update call, which really behaves a little bit inconsistently with how you might imagine update to work. Because hey, find, right? Find returns a list of records, remove returns a list of records, but all of a sudden we're saying multi does not. Well, that's a little unexpected. So in order to get our update function to update a list of records, like all the ones we have selected, we have to pass in a third argument here. So I'm going to put in another comma. We'll pass in an options object, and we'll give it the property multi-true, which means, yep, we want to update multiple records at once. So now let's flip back over to our application again. We'll refresh the page. Wait for the long update. I'm going to select 2 of our artists who are currently not retired. I'll click on retire, and ta-da, they both get updated at the same time. So again, wow, extremely important setting to know about, but it's pretty gosh darn hidden away inside of the documentation. So I think that we're just about done with set retired. We still have to implement set not retired, but as you might imagine, it's going to be just about opposite in function. So I'm just going to copy the contents here, everything inside the function. I'm going to take it over to the set not retired function. I'm going to paste, but instead of saying all these records are retired true, I'm going to say, nope, you're not retired anymore. You're coming out of retirement. So we'll say retired false. So now let's flip over again. We'll go through one last very long refresh. And now I'll do some multi-select. Let's take a bunch of the retired people and say, hey, you're doing one more album. Here we go. And boom, all in one fell swoop, we update a bunch of records all at once. And of course, we can toggle them back and forth all we want. Cool. All right, this definitely looks good. I think that we've finished up all of the different queries we have, notwithstanding one tiny bug that we left inside of the search artist query. Inside the next section, let's figure out how we can add several thousand pre-generated artists to this collection. Then we'll test a couple of different query options that we have. We'll fix up this count thing that we've got going on, and I think we'll be just about complete with this application. So I'll see you in just a moment.